The Trump administration is now investigating Wikipedia for anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism hoax gets dumber every single day. The Trump administration is now launching an investigation into Wikipedia and accusing their editors of anti-Semitism for allowing facts that are inconvenient towards the Zionist narrative. According to Zionists, facts are anti-Semitic now. Zionists are openly trying to rewrite our entire reality, and if you don't go along with them, they will call you an anti-Semite. Anti-Semitism used to be the hatred of Semitic people. Now it's simply anyone who spread facts that Jewish people don't like the fact that Israel is an illegal, apartheid settler colonial state where Palestinians have an internationally recognized enshrined right to self-defense and armed resistance against that state. At a certain point, people need to stop giving a fuck whether these genocidal monsters call you anti-Semitic or not. They are simply engaging in information warfare. And this information warfare isn't new. For decades, Israelis engaged in operations on Wikipedia in order to control the way that you think. This is former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett 15 years ago, describing how Israel has to train Wikipedia editors in order to propagandize the world.
Moetzet Yesha, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged an instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
I came here to learn more about how we as Israelis and as Jews can defend Israel online, on the internet, and particularly in Wikipedia in this case. Because right now, if you look online, if you do searches for certain terms related to Israel, it's just filled with anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and garbage. And there's not enough of us out there working to counteract that and make sure that the other side of the story, our side of the story, and our right side of the story is getting the right coverage and the coverage that it needs.
This is why Zionists are now melting down on Wikipedia, because they have completely lost the narrative.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, happy Labor Day. The streak continues. Welcome to Nick at Primetime. I had to go live today. A lot to talk about. Make sure you guys like, share the stream. I'm obviously going to cover the Shanghai Cooperation Summit throughout the stream. But I want to highlight more on this story because we're living in a time where Zionists are trying to completely rewrite our reality. Wikipedia is anti-Semitic. Labor unions are now anti-Semitic. You guys who follow me on X, you guys who see my recent streams, you guys know I find it absolutely crazy that there are people on the left that goes along with this. That they see these Zio-fascists attempting to scale back our free speech rights, and then they playing footsie with them. They are legitimizing this tactic used to dehumanize Arabs and Palestinians and elevate the feelings of Jewish people above all. Like, we have Palestinians who had their entire family killed in Gaza. I know countless Palestinians. I know Palestinians who've been on this show, who follow me. I know Palestinians who I met at KC Palestine Action. They lost multiple family members. I heard someone speak at a Palestine rally at Kansas City explaining how they lost about around 20 plus family members. So these Palestinians who live in the United States, they watch our government slaughter their entire family, and they're not even allowed to mourn them. They're not even allowed to mourn their own family without being called terrorist sympathizers. Oh, you siding with Hamas? What are you, anti-Semitic? So not only are these people witnessing their family being slaughtered, they face financial retaliation. They had their professional lives destroyed. You have UK doctors who are having their entire lives destroyed because the Zionist lobby is going after them. And what is their crime? Fighting and mourning for their people? And despite this unbelievable amount of aggression against Arabs, against Muslims I've seen my entire life, you want to know what the United States left is doing? They're centering Jewish fucking feelings right now. We can't even talk about the crimes that Israel is committing, the crimes that the Jewish community is rallying behind, without some anti-Zionist Jew explaining how their feelings are hurt. Oh my God, I'm seeing the Star of David being bloody with the body of Arabs. It makes me feel bad in this time while I'm seeing Palestinian children being murdered. You want to know who we're centering? The feelings of the collective community that is supporting Israel. And then a lot of these anti-Zionist Jews, they gaslight us into thinking that there's some sort of disagreement. Congratulations, there are 50 of you. There's 2 organizations. I covered it on the show, and you can look this up. This is verifiable facts. 99.2% of Jewish synagogues support the apartheid state of Israel, and they retaliate against everyone who don't fall in line. There are Jewish rabbis who was retaliated by their own community, who was sanctioned by their own community because they stood with Palestinians. And then they turn around and they want to do PR for this community that's clearly toxic because they're focusing and centering and they are targeting anti-Zionist Jews as well. My anger with what I am seeing in the community is also because how they are treating you guys. And then as we're seeing this, I am seeing the organized Jewish community, obviously teaming up with Christian Zionists. I'm not taking them out. We all know that Zionism is a system of imperialism that connects with all these religions. But that does not erase the fact. We know that Zionism is more than just Judaism. We know that. But that does not erase the fact that there's an organized effort. This is what I covered in my hotspot. Where are the synagogues? Where are the Jewish organizations that are speaking out against these Jewish educators that is waging a war against the teachers union? Every single union that came out strongly in support of the Palestinian people, we've seen the collective Jewish community wage war against them. Are we allowed to say that? Can you imagine if this was Islam, if there was Muslims in the United States, in the West, that was collectively supporting Western-funded terrorism? Like, imagine if you had teachers' organizations that was condemning Al-Qaeda, and then you had Arab and Muslim teachers publicly speak out against the union and quit. Like, do you guys understand there's almost no identical situation to how crazy things I've gotten because of the anti-Semitism host, because of the Jewish supremacy, the idea that we can't even point these things out. You have edgy leftists, you have right-wingers, you have Republicans who they burn the Quran. Famous right-wing social media influencers, they burn the Quran. You have edgy leftists like me when I was growing up who used to bash Christianity, and rightfully so in a lot of situations. But then the second you point out, like, hey man, why is the institutional Judaism, why institutional Jews at the highest level, why are they supporting the genocide of our time? You are not allowed to ask that question. New York City Jewish educators say they are leaving the teacher union due to anti-Semitism. What are we doing? Well, I'll start off by saying good riddance. How cooked is New York education system? How cooked is Western education systems? The fact that we even have Zionists in our midst, in our education, teaching students. Like these people shouldn't be allowed to be around children. They support the murdering of children. They support the bombing of hospitals, the bombing of universities. These people should be expelled from the profession, as long as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, you know what they're doing? You want to know what the collective Jewish community is doing? They're making these people out to be the victims, because the teacher union, and we have been covering this story ongoing for the last few weeks now, for maybe last 2-3 months. No one on the left has been covering this anti-Semitism hoax the way I've been covering it, because they're afraid of Jewish supremacy. They want to be friends with these anti-Zionist Jews who get upset whenever you criticize the Jewish community. They did not set out hate. You guys heard me. I bashed the black church. I bashed the white America. This has nothing to do with hatred. I am telling you guys the situation that we are in right now, and the reason why they're able to get away with this, because people are too afraid to point out the enemy, to point out the people who are cracking down on our free speech, the people who are cracking down and waging war against unions. You have people on the left that are afraid to call this out. Bernie Sanders not saying anything. Zoran Mamdani not saying anything. AOC not saying anything. When you have institutionalized crackdown and waging war against unions by Jewish educators and synagogues and Jewish leaders, because I've been covering. Look, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I do got to remember, you never know when you get new viewers. So for people who haven't been with us for the last few weeks, let me quickly sum up what every single one of these Jewish educators are batshit crazy, and they shouldn't be anywhere near a school, let alone an accredited educator that was a part of a teacher union. Western society is cooked. So if you don't remember, around June 19th, a few weeks ago, 2 months ago, I was reporting how the largest teachers union, the rank and file, voted to ban the ADL. Why did they vote to ban the ADL? Because the ADL is a pro-genocide propaganda think tank. The ADL was started to protect a Jewish rapist. The ADL is just one part of this pyramid, this complete scheme of anti-Semitism that completely brainwashed people in the West, where they claim that Jewish people who commit crimes and face the consequences of their crimes, whenever that happens, that's an act of anti-Semitism. They write these bullshit reports where they say there's a rise of anti-Semitism because people are protesting against Israel. They directly define anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. They don't even pretend to make the difference. Have you guys ever heard this crazy fascist? I know if you are part of the RBN community, we have roasted this guy many times before. But if you're new here, the guy below us is a fascist who literally admitted that he's an Israeli first before he quickly corrected himself. This organization is ran by people who identify as Israeli first. They donate to AIPAC, the ADL, not to American Mutual Aid. They don't donate to increase the quality of American infrastructure. They're not here to rid the corruption of the American state. No, in fact, they support and endorse the most corrupt politicians in our country. They endorse AIPAC mailing in the elections. They smear any politician who wants to be free of Israel's grasp as anti-Semitic. They are one of the greatest enemies of the American people. And that's putting it lightly. No one who is intellectually honest would ever use the ADL as any sort of source worth a fucking damn. That's why you've seen Zionists call Wikipedia anti-Semitic, because Wikipedia doesn't consider ADL a legitimate source. That's one of the many reasons you see Zionists melt down at Wikipedia, or essentially anyone who says any kind of facts. Because we know that anti-Semitism has absolutely nothing to do with hatred of Semitic people. Who Zionists, they hate Semitic people like Palestinians more than anyone else. This is why the left is so lost, going along with this nonsense, looking at white Europeans and saying that they're victims of anti-Semitism. Fuck the U.S. left. Zohar Mamdani going along with this bullshit. Bernie Sanders makes it his entire fucking thing. AOC signed on to the ADL, APAC pledge to fight against anti-Semitism. Fuck the United States left. That's why we should be cheering the rise of multipolarity, the rise of China, where they don't worship these fucking Jewish supremacists. So the teacher union, rightfully so, the rank and file, going back to the story, voted to ban the ADL. And in response, let me show this receipt. In response, you had over 400 Jewish groups. You guys see how the Zionist controlled media started immediately attacking labor unions? Like during this time where teacher unions were like, hey man, we can't support any source that support Israeli genocide. Then all of a sudden, you get all these headlines saying how labor unions feed into anti-Semitism. Look, anti-Semitism's newest safe space, teachers unions. This is the kind of stuff that is written in Western fucking media as fact. Teachers are the profession that liberals usually pretend is above the fray. Like, usually whenever you see right-wingers, they have dumb critiques of teachers and education, but then you will see liberals, they will say, how dare you go after the teachers? How can anyone not support our teachers? Our teachers are the people who guide our children. You guys heard the liberal virtue signaling bullshit they say about teachers, but the second that the teachers start criticizing Israel, all that shit go out the window. You got liberal media all over the place. These Zionist controlled outlets saying that teachers unions are littered with anti-Semitism. Here's another one. Teachers unions accused of fostering environment for anti-Semitism to grow. The fuck is going on, bro? What the and then people are afraid to call this out. People say, oh, Nick is the one, he one of those anti-Semite leftists because he noticed this bullshit. You got the Zionist Jews who run the media, then they turn around on a dime, on the direction of the ADL, on the direction of Israel, and then smeared an entire union for being anti-Semitic. We're not using a genocidal organization as a reputable source. And if you read the article, and I broke this down before, and I explained this in the tweet, despite the fact that the rank and file overwhelmingly voted to ban the ADL, you had the teacher union that then rejected the will of the rank and file. You know why? Because they would put pressure by over 400 Jewish groups who then, whatever fucking magic Jew powers they have or whatever, convinced the union leadership to throw democracy out and cancel the resolution that their own members voted for. Because one of the leaders of the teacher union is a diehard Zionist who puts Israel before our own children. You're not allowed to talk about this on the left for some reason. RBN, we're the only people covering this damn story. Everyone else, they say, oh my God, this is what's going on with the Palestinians. It's so sad. But we also have the problem of anti-Semitism that we must address. Fuck you. Every single person that is saying that, every single person that is legitimizing that, you're giving the AOK to these kind of stories. Every single time you cover that bullshit, you're not covering this. Not only are they cracking down on our free speech, they're going after the unions. And as they're going after unions, the left, who pretends they care about unions, are completely silent because they're afraid of being called anti-Semitic too. All right, let's see. I want to get to the Russia-China story too, but man, this story burns me up, bro. This story burns me the fuck up. This is why I was willing to get canceled. I'm like, bro, I know a lot of people not gonna like my takes on this kind of stuff, but I really don't give a fuck because this level of Jewish supremacy and brainwashing in our culture has gotten completely absurd. Here's the president of the United States. This is what he said today. He had an interview with the Daily Caller, and this is going viral. This is not the first time that Trump said something like this. The funniest thing, like, we covered Trump saying stuff like this, where he laments the decline in power of the Jewish lobby. He said Israel had the strongest lobby in Congress of anything, or of any company or corporation or state that I had ever seen. Israel was the strongest. Today, it doesn't have that strong of a lobby. It's amazing. What? Like our friends at DDG say, bro, what? People watch RBN for a long time. We've seen Trump say this stuff. This is one of the Trumpisms. There are a lot of Trumpisms he say. And one thing that I think why I don't have a lot of patience for people like Dave Smith. The people like, oh, I can't believe I told people to vote for Trump. I didn't know he was a Zionist. He says stuff like this all the time. We're like, man, I can't believe the Israeli lobby isn't as strong as it used to be. You guys see how there's a union between white Christian America? Because Trump is the god of white Christians, apparently. He's the god of white America. They fucking love him. One of the greatest political figures in terms of their sport. In terms of their sport of electoral politics, the fact that Donald Trump came out of nowhere and took over one party, he's the king of white boys. At RBN, we declared Trump is the king of white boys. He is. White people love him. He was ordained by evangelical Christians. You have people like Dave Smith, even people like Jake Shields. Many people who are like, man, I vote for Trump. Yeah, I was wrong, man. My bad. Yeah, I was wrong. I told the working class that Donald Trump was anti-war. Completely misled the poor white working class. Oops, my bad. Even those people were tricked. People who was considered smart, like Dave Smith, was telling his white boy audience that they should support Donald Trump. As Donald Trump, and this completely destroys the argument that Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, and a lot of the white supremacist, anti-Israel people make, when they pretend that the white community is the victim of Jewry, the victims of Jewish behavior. There has been a coordinated partnership where both these communities acknowledge that imperialism and apartheid, racism and imperialism benefits them. So for a very long time, evangelicals teamed up with these crazy, radical Zionist Jewish people, and they took over the fucking world, especially the West. And then you have people pretending that Trump is anti-war. You have people that pretend that Trump is part of some sort of anti-establishment movement, even though he's connected at the hip with some of the biggest Zionists in the world, like Jared Kushner, who he gave his daughter away to. Trump grandchildren are literally Jewish. Meanwhile, people like Nick Fuentes supported them. All these fucking white supremacist people supported them. And then they pretend that they pretend there's distance between white America and Zionism, when that distance is very new. There's definitely a lot of friction now. This is the decline of Israel, but this friction is brand new. There's been a cohesive relationship between these motherfuckers for decades. You want to know who did not have that cohesive relationship? Zionists and black radicals. That's why the ADL said that black Americans are the biggest threat to Zionism. That's why the ADL and Zionist organizations were spying on the Black Panthers. That's why black radical organizations stood in solidarity with the Palestinians, as we was called radical terror supporters, as we had a collective union between South Africans and Palestinians as white boys and Zionists. They was teaming up together and fucking up Arabs, fucking up the Middle East, imposing apartheid around the world. And then people like Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, and a lot of these white supremacists, they try to rewrite the history. And I would love to debate these people. I was talking to Jake Shields about this to his face. Like, you guys have had a union while the left has been fighting against this forever. And now you guys trying to pretend that you guys was the vanguard of fighting against Jewish supremacy this entire time? Get the fuck out of here. This part right here is so ridiculous. There was a time where you couldn't speak bad if you wanted to be a politician. You couldn't speak badly. They talking about Israel. This is Donald Trump. But today you have, AOC plus 3. This man, Donald Trump, is the biggest Fox News watching boomer fraud of all fucking time, bro. So, according to Donald Trump in his analysis here, he says, but today you have, AOC plus 3. You have all these lunatics. They really changed it. According to Donald Trump, the reason why the American people is turning against Israel is because of AOC in the Iron Dome squad? Oh, Jesus Christ. This is straight up Fox News boomer shit. And Donald Trump, he's always been a Fox News watching boomer. That's why I'm so glad that the Dave Smith, the annoying libertarian, those fucking dipshit libertarians who I was calling out for years, they was gaslighting people about Donald Trump. They was gaslighting the anti-war movement about Donald Trump, and it was annoying the shit out of me. That's why I fucking cussed so many of these people out. And Trump doing his part in the establishment, because obviously I think there's a reason for this. Both sides of the establishment fucking uplift each other. This is Donald Trump cutting a promo for AOC. You know what I mean? They uplift and prop each other up all the time. It's the same in pro wrestling. You guys know my family, we love pro wrestling. You have heels that will get booed on purpose in pro wrestling. They would try to get heat from the audience on purpose in order to make the baby faces look better. It's a concept of pro wrestling. Like Ric Flair, he was famous for it. You know what I mean? Think of the famous heel. They were famous for getting heat from the crowd and using that to transfer to the baby face so the crowd will cheer for them. That's Donald Trump and AOC. And AOC does it for the right-wing chuds to help Donald Trump get over. Like, once you understand the relationship between pro wrestling and American politics, you can't unsee it. Like, us wrestling nerds, we make these kind of comparisons all the time because it's so on point. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Maxie, they're the baby faces now. They're the ones who are allowed to speak out against the Israeli genocide. So I'm gonna show this clip, and I want to move on. I want to get to our Trump-Russia. I want to get to the Russia story, the historic alliance between Modi, Xi Jinping, Putin, which is a direct failure of United States leadership. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys, this is the guy who is currently leading the fucking polls. You guys know that fucking Gavin Newsom is the leading candidate. There's a poll that just came out earlier where he's like 25, 30%. And the next election, the 2028 election, is essentially going to be a competition between both parties on who can crack down on free speech the most on behalf of Israel. This is how cooked our election is going to be. Both parties complaining that Americans have too much free speech rights.
What? The guy who had dinner with Nick Fuentes? telling us about anti-Semitism? Are you kidding me? The guy who countenanced anti-Semitism in both his last campaigns? I can give you chapter and verse on that. Lecturing us? You saw, I mean, you just saw California came out leading the nation in terms of our response to anti-Semitism. It's a point.
California, as Gavin Newsom said, was leading the way in combating anti-Semitism. And now, according to Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump's the anti-Semite. You got to see the fucking cursed political discourse that we have to suffer through in the United States. According to Republicans, Democrats is a party full of young Hamasist, radical left, terrorism supporters. And then according to liberal boomers, no, it's actually Donald Trump. They're the real anti-Semites. No, you're anti-Semite. No, you're anti-Semite. I'm the blue team. I promise we're not anti-Semitic. No, we're the red team. We're not anti-Semitic. We don't have a Jewish supremacy problem. And this is like the greatest example of how Jewish supremacy is centered in our politics. And this is the guy who's leading the party, the Democratic Party, in polling right now. This is his line of attack he's using against Trump. President Newsom says President Donald Trump is the leading socialist of our time. Oh, Jesus Christ. We are like cursed in this country.
The hostility to him is quite high, correct?
Of course, of course, because of
why
some
is
of his,
that?
well, for obvious reasons, some of his views. And there's a lot of anxiety around those views. And they could be on issues related to domestic policy as it relates to, socializing, grocery stores, et cetera. It could be on national policy.
Trump Intel, the comparison is very obvious that you just made.
Yeah, no,
correct.
And we need to make that point over and over and over. I mean, I remember, wasn't Jeff Bezos out there yelling and screaming that Biden doesn't understand, capitalism? I mean, this guy is completely perverted capitalism, Donald Trump. It's crony capitalism. It's whatever, you pay him off, give him a phone call. I mean, these illegal tariffs, which we're also in court on, all the things that are happening in this country, it's just perverse that they could be shaping the Democratic Party in the context of the socialist brand, when in fact, this guy is the leading nationalist and socialist of our time, Donald Trump.
Bro, fucking kill me now. Jesus Christ. This is the messaging that's coming from the Democratic Party. That Donald Trump is the leading socialist. Donald Trump is actually anti-Semitic. We're going to defend the CIA. Donald Trump is actually the one who wanted to fund the police. Both parties are completely cooked. And if you ran as a Democrat, if you're progressive, it's time for you to admit that your strategy has completely failed. Your strategy to shift the Democratic Party to the left is an undeniable failure, because now the Democratic Party is just straight up a Reaganite, Liz Cheney party now. Because we have professional genocide scholars, and this is what we were saying forever, since the Biden administration. I'm going to quickly cover this before I get to the main story. Israel committing genocide in Gaza, world's top scholar on crime say. And thank God that Kamala Harris lost, because now liberals are willing to say it's a genocide. Last year, you had liberals that say, hey, they was the one who was like, they was lawyering for Israel genocide in order to defend Joe Biden. So they will be the ones to say, don't you know, technically it's not a genocide? Technically, legally speaking, it's not a genocide. There are still Palestinians that are alive. That was the kind of shit you would hear from liberals last year. Now that Donald Trump is in charge, now they're allowed to call it a genocide. Because I don't know what made these people top scholars, but 2 years, it took y'all 2 years to make these kind of statements, which was obvious. So their plan was, we're gonna wait until they kill all of the Palestinians. We want to make sure and wait until it's 100% apparent before we label it as a genocide. You had a progressive left who still won't call it a genocide to this day. And scumbags like Bernie Sanders, big shout out to the squirrel for always highlighting this video. He still refuses to call it a genocide to this day. He refused to call it a genocide because he didn't want to directly implicate Jim Crow Joe. Now you have motherfuckers like Jake Sullivan who coming out and writing op-eds saying how we need to have an arms embargo on Israel. These people make me sick. The people who supported the genocide under Joe Biden is now saying, oh my God, what Donald Trump is doing is awful. He is enabling Netanyahu. Look, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. I'm going to get to the Bernie clip. But look at this shit. All these people need to hang. They're trying to rehabilitate their image now. Former top Biden aide says he now backs withholding weapons from Israel. What the fuck? Hey, Jake, just following orders is not a valid legal excuse when you are being charged with genocide, which doesn't have a statute of limitation, by the way. So this is what Bernie Sanders was saying before.
A little bit queasy, what genocide? We got to be careful about that word.
It is a He said, I feel queasy and we got to be careful about using that word, the word of genocide. And then he quickly turned around and said that Putin is a war criminal committing genocide. Full of shit. This is the same Bernie Sanders that says, I don't think we should sanction Israel. I don't think we should boycott Israel. But then the second that the Ukraine war popped out with Russia invaded, he called for sanctions and boycotts of Russia. He's a Zionist stooge.
Get a little bit queasy, what genocide? We got to be careful about that word.
It is a genocide.
What's your definition of genocide?
Bernie, you have funded Zionism yourself. You have funded the Israeli settler state. Here you are, pretending you aren't. It is disgusting. Liar, liar, genocide denier. Liar, liar, genocide denier. It's disgusting.
Meanwhile, people like Hassan Piker will have Bernie Sanders on and he will never question Bernie about this. The progressive media that people still think are their friends to this day, they have access to Bernie Sanders and they don't have the fourth, the eighth, the 1/16th of the courage of this activist have. The person who called out Bernie Sanders, people like Hassan Piker has Bernie Sanders on, calls him his fucking daddy, and will never grill him on these kind of things. The same way these people would never grill Ro Khanna on their support of the NATO proxy war. All right, so we can move on. I want to get to our main story now. I want to see. Let me check some super chats. All right, bet. We got a few. We're going to cover the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit up next, which is nothing but historic. And I'm gonna cover it from the Western media cope. So stay tuned. I'm gonna do a quick super chat break. Yeah. You guys know I had to hit him up the other day. You know, I don't do a lot of diss tracks anymore. You know what I mean? But Hassan, I had to hit him up. Like, to me, it's disqualifying for you to sit in front of a genocide denier like Bernie Sanders and ask him no tough questions. You have Matt Duss, no tough questions. And he straight up promoted the false rape hoax. You know how I would utterly destroy that bum. You guys see what I did to Ro Khanna? It will be that times 1,000 with Matt Duss. Meanwhile, Hassan Piker just chilling with them. Hey, man, I love Matt Duss. We trust Matt Duss. You want to know who we don't trust? We don't trust RBN and we don't trust Joe Stein. We don't trust Julian Assange. We don't trust anyone who's not part of the Democratic establishment. And then people let this hatchery go because they're attracted to him. You have these deeply unserious U.S. leftists who think Hassan Piker is attractive, so they ignore his shit liberty. They ignore how complacent and complicit, I should say, he is with the Democratic establishment he claims he opposes. People, either I watched a video of Hassan last night, I felt like my brain was rotting. People like, Nick, you need to watch Hassan, check him out. Every time I watch this motherfucker, I literally lose even more faith in my humanity. Because I realize that this motherfucker is the most watched leftist. So people are like, you never watch Hassan. I fucking tried. Because you guys know I do this too. As a streamer, I'm like, all right, what am I missing? What is he doing that I'm not doing that make him so popular? So I watched and I'm like, all right, I don't get it. I guess I don't got it. I guess I would never be a giant fucking Twitch streamer because I don't fucking get it. You guys know I do this for the intellectual pursuit. It's a great intellectual pursuit. I love meeting and talking to smart comrades like Shama Sawan, Midwestern Marks, many other smart comrades like Nico, my friends at Hotspot, people like Jason Smith, all my comrades I met in China. Like this is a great intellectual pursuit. So I would never dumb down my shit to ever be like Hassan. You know what I mean? If someone like Rokana, someone like Matt Dust come on RBN, we're gonna bite his fucking head off. We're gonna destroy our access to Washington D.C. But that's okay because we will never fucking allow space for bad information to the working class to get out there. But let's move on. I was just responding to some chat. That's all. Check out AI generated revolutionary songs by Lennon, Rosa, Fidel, Joseph on the Red Creators Network. Big shout out to them, I guess. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the $5. Extra 42 fries. One of the municipal town halls in Montreal flies a Zio flag. Someone burned it and being charged with a hate crime. We're cooked. Florida is flying the Israeli flag everywhere. There was a school. I don't remember the name of the school. I'm pretty sure you guys saw it in the headlines. They approved a resolution to fly the Israeli flag, and they immediately had to walk it back because of the amount of raw hate they got for being traitors. So the tide is turning. That's why they have to do this rank Zionist authoritarianism. That's why it's okay to burn the U.S. flag, even though they're trying to crack down on that. But it's a hate crime if you burn the Israeli flag. Right-wingers, they burn the pride flag, the rainbow flag for our gay brothers and sisters. They burn the rainbow flag all the time, but then they say if you burn the Israeli flag, that's illegal anti-Semitism. That is Jewish supremacy. The belief that Jewish people, their lives are more important than others. Anyway, let me move on. Thank you for the super chats, guys. My shit-lib family called it a genocide and then says, oh, Jesus Christ. But we all agree Hamas has to go, right? This society is cooked. I do agree. This is why I was calling out Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've been calling out every single right-wing fake anti-Zionist influencer. I called out Nick Fuentes on this when he was dissing Hamas. I called all these frauds out because I'm like, bro, how can you say that Israel is committing a genocide, the crime of all crimes, and then you say the Palestinian people don't have a right to fight back while you say you support the Second Amendment? As you claim you support a don't tread on me ideology, you support the Israeli treading on the Palestinians. And we got to take that hard line. Again, they like, oh, come on, Nick, you being a hard ass. No. I'm not doing this shit where you devalue my life. Because you guys are all for that Second Amendment shit when it's white people. But then the second that Arabs, and when the second that black people, Latinos, indigenous people, the second that we flex some Second Amendment shit, you guys want to scream terrorism? Go fuck yourself. That's why I love talking to right wingers. I don't know why leftists are afraid. I love making these arguments to them. That's why when Jake Shields invited me on, I'm like, Ben, I would love to hear his response to these arguments, but he agreed on a lot of them. A lot of anti-right-wing Zionist influencers, if you push them on this, even though they want to distance themselves from Hamas, push all these right-wing frauds on Hamas, and they will fold because the anti-Hamas narrative and sentiment is incoherent with the anti-Zionist position. You cannot acknowledge that Israel is a criminal apartheid state that is illegally blocking the Palestinian state while at the same time being anti-Hamas because they're fighting for their right to have a state. So you can't say Palestinians have a right to defend themselves and then get upset at an organization because they are good at doing it. So you're for Palestinian resistance until they start winning. That's all the October 7th meltdown. The Zionists was humbled. They lost a battle. They got their people kidnapped. And an amazing act of resistance. And Hamas won so hard that it's now sacrilege. You can't praise October 7th. October 7th was the worst day of all time. You trying to say we can't talk about your L's? No, mother, you were fighting a resistance group, and you took an L. You taking an L against a resistance group doesn't make that battle taboo. Fuck you. Meanwhile, you will never hear any establishment progressive say this kind of stuff. This is why I grow Rokana on, who supports the Ukrainian resistance but doesn't support Palestinian resistance. Redemption run Matt Miller 2028. Nick, you've been on all the time, but your numbers don't buzz. Someone's been cheating against you. You guys all know. You guys know the algorithm is 100% against RBN, but that's okay. I told you we do this for intellectual pursuit. You guys remember it was last December where the algorithm wiped 3,000 subscribers from our channel, and it happened twice. It happened after October 7th, and it happened last December, where YouTube would just wipe a ton of our subscribers, and then it will kill our channel in the algorithm. It happened multiple times. We went from getting around 250,000 views a month, and then it slashed by like a third, and then we got to rebuild the channel. Then it happened after October 7th, and then once we rebuild our channel, once we hit, we was almost at 50,000 subscribers, and then 1 December, Zoya, you remember, I took 2 weeks off because I took holidays off, and then I came back in January, 3,000 subs gone, and it's almost like we had to start all the way over. That happens, man. We get pretty good numbers on X. We can't really focus on that. I tell the team that all the time. We just got to put in the work. We just got to do a good show. We just got to educate the people, and the people will come. There are a lot of the distorted masses, unfortunately, that like to slop. But that's okay. We got to be there to educate the masses who are serious about revolutionary change. So no matter what the numbers say, I know I will always be proud of the quality of content that I'm putting out. You know what I mean? That's why I tell everyone at RBN, don't focus on that shit. We got Sabby. You know what I mean? Sabby is the motherfucker that was killing it in the algorithm. You know what I mean? She had 250,000 subscribers. Sabby is our superstar. We're here to do the best we can on the chat. We know we're not gonna be put by the algorithm. It is what it is. I told our team, do not fucking worry about that shit. There were members before who used to obsess over that too much. I don't think we should ever obsess over that. So let's talk about the main story of the day that we get into around 45 minutes into the stream. The expansion of this no-limit partnership between India, Russia, and China. And this is probably one of the great foreign policy blunders of our time, is the obsession with using sanctions as a tool of diplomacy by the West. Because if you look at a lot of the corporate media headlines, it's driving me crazy because they're trying to pretend that this is just a Donald Trump thing. This is the shallow analysis you get from corporate media. They're making it all about Donald Trump. No, this is a failure that's been a few terms coming. This represents the rise of BRICS that India is a part of. They had summits years ago talking about how we need to have a rise of multipolarity. And now they're not even hiding what their main intention are. They want to challenge U.S. global hegemony. They see the United States creating an international system, which is unfair. an international system of Jewish supremacy, an international system that punishes anyone who doesn't lick the boots of the United States. Even if you do lick the boots of the United States, if you ever become inconvenienced to finance capital, we will go over after you. So this is a long time retaliation by the global majority to change the current quote-unquote rules-based order. Meanwhile, if you look at every single corporate media, at least liberal headline, I would say the corporate Democrat-ran media, the New York Times, MSNBC, Washington Post, the Atlantic, those kind of outlets, you guys see how they're making it all about Donald Trump? Look, China G rolls out the red carpet for Putin for Putin and Modi as Trump upends global relations. You guys see how they're making it all about Donald Trump? Here's another one. Putin, Modi, and G send Trump a pointed message. And if you want to see how our media runs the same headline, type that last part of the headline, G sends Trump a pointed message, and you will see all the corporate media headlines that repeat the same fucking narrative. They all say the same thing. During the Shanghai Cooperation Summit, India, China, and Russia sends Donald Trump a giant fuck you. That's the only thing that liberal media can do is view everything through the lens of the red-blue game. But this happened, and it really escalated under the last administration, under Joe Biden. You guys know that if you followed RBN, because it was Biden who escalated the sanctions regime, who was putting pressure on India and try to persuade them not to buy Russian oil. And India was like, fuck you, we're going to do that anyway. The Biden administration was putting pressure on countries all over the world and trying to persuade them to stop doing business with China, to stop doing business with Russia. And they were directly retaliating against the quote-unquote enemies of the West who refused to sacrifice their economic standing for the foreign policy goals of the United States. So this started whilst it didn't start under Biden, it escalated under Biden. Because all these things are the consequence of these puppets in the suit. The idea that geopolitics shifts in a gigantic way based on these puppets, based on a reality game show host, based on a broken brain dementia patient, it's absurd at face value. So this is the result of the United States empire overreaching and panicking because of the rise of China. So because of the rise of China, both parties and multiple administrations try to separate Russia from China, try to separate India from China. But the Biden administration support for the Ukraine war and then retaliating against other countries who refused to go along with it made many countries wake up to the idea that if they ever make a foreign policy decision that the United States and the West disagrees with, they will always be liable to being cut off from the financial system like Russia was. This idea is what led Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil, all these countries to really push de-dollarization and multipolarity more than ever before. And Putin is not shy about this. There's so many great clips I can show you from this. I can't wait to have my friend Sarah, who will be joining us on Wednesday, to really break down this giant shift in multipolarity. And the only thing I can do is laugh at the Western cope in response to this. So here's Putin. I want to show you guys this video where he doesn't mince words. He make it 100% clear that they are pursuing an alternative to the unfair U.S.-led global order. And if you're American and you care about the status of the American working class, if you want to see your country and your people thrive, you should be furious at the neocons in Washington that created a situation where we're enemies with these people. This is the global majority speaking. These are giant populations, economic powerhouses that we let fall through our grasp, through our fingertips, because the West is fucking greedy. How, even if you're not a Marxist, Leninist, anti-imperialist, like I unapologetically am, let's say you're a flag-pumping patriot, how is this not infuriating to you? That instead of working with these people, instead of uplifting the entirety of the global working class, including the American working class, we made enemies of these people to the point where they're having meetings on way to challenge United States and American dominance. So I would never apologize in a million years, even if the feds go after me, which they probably will. I will never apologize for calling for a friendly relationship with Russia and China. You can even argue that it's our patriotic duty to do so, if you want to be cheesy about it. You guys know I live in the Midwest. I got easy tactics sometimes, guys. Please forgive me.
С момента создания в 2001 году ШОС активно участвует в усилиях по формированию на нашем общем евразийском континенте атмосферы мира и безопасности, доверия и сотрудничества. В этой связи мы, безусловно,
He said we had given careful consideration to the proposals put forward by Xi Jinping. This is where he's describing this new era of multipolarity that he wants to see, and anyone who actually cares about the working class globally should want to see. Because if you want them poor white people who think the left took something from you, how have you benefited from neocon Western dominance? The American working class don't benefit from this at all. We should all want this, but anyway, let me continue this clip.
Сотрудничество. В этой связи мы, безусловно, внимательным образом выслушали все, что предлагается господином Си Цзиньпинем по созданию новой, более эффективной и функциональной системы глобального управления. Это актуально в условиях, когда некоторые страны по-прежнему не отказываются от стремления к диктату в международных делах. Россия поддерживает инициативу председателя Си Цзиньпиня и заинтересована в том, чтобы приступить к конкретному обсуждению предложений, которые высказали наши китайские друзья. С момента создания...
So that pretty much sums up Russia's position. Russia, China, and India is closer than ever before. China and India even settled long-time border disputes. They consider themselves rivals for a very long time. And I had a lot of fun this morning just reading a lot of the headlines, reading the cope from the Western neocon class. This is the same class that for the last 2 decades, the Gordon Changs, all these generals that would go on Fox News, CNN, who will write these op-eds in the Washington Post, they will explain how India is only a matter of time before they break with China and side with the West. There's a famous article, I think Gordon Chang wrote it. There was an article that was written about 20 years ago that was like, China is going to collapse and India is going to take their place because India is going to show China the value of capitalism and they're going to ditch China and this is going to be the way for the West to dominate Asia. You guys realize all these motherfucking neocons, all these people in the West who claim that they have a strategy to defeat China, they have been dead wrong for the last few decades now. And Donald Trump has really accelerated this because the Biden administration was trying to put soft pressure on India. They was very publicly upset at Modi for still siding with Russia. And then you had Trump, the dumbass, who started having a fucking full-fledged meltdown because he thought that he was like boys with Modi. And he is in a lot of ways. They had a good relationship. India has strong right-wing elements in their country. But India and Modi realized, and they saw which way the tide was turning, that we're entering a Chinese century, how the Western capitalist imperialist system is inherently unstable. We're witnessing the West in its true late-stage capitalist phase right now. So Modi is he's calculated. He knows which way the tide is turning. So this plan to separate India from China was an amazing failure. So Donald Trump had his tweet where he had a complete fucking meltdown, which is only going to help China more. I told you guys last year, after the election, one of my post-election takes as the entirety of the left was melting down. Oh my God, we got Trump again. My immediate response was, hey man, this is gonna mark the rise of multipolarity in an accelerated the way we never seen before. And that is exactly what happened, because I predicted that Xi Jinping would run circles around Donald Trump on the world stage. And that is exactly what he did. I predicted that Xi Jinping would run circles around Donald Trump on the world stage. And that is exactly what he's doing. Humiliating him in Ukraine. Showing how small the United States is on the global stage at this summit. Wonder if I can find that old tweet. I told you guys G was going to run circles. I'm going to see if I can find that tweet, but it's not that important. Here Trump's tweet melting down over Xi Jinping doing nothing and winning once again. Xi Jinping does nothing and win because these Western neocons are just that incompetent. What few people understand is what we do very little business in India. Look at the cope. But they do tremendous amount of business with us. So this first sentence by Donald Trump is how you know the White House is occupied by a dumbass. And many people in MAGA, the Laura Loomers, the Charlie Kirk, they're obviously not good faith actors, but the people who support Donald Trump, they're so dumb they don't even realize it. You guys realize the importance between the U.S. and India relationship has much more to do with their potential as a emerging market and pulling it away from China more than it has to do with how much, quote unquote, business we do with them versus how much we do in reverse. Like Donald Trump, he doesn't even understand the geopolitical importance of what neocons have been trying to pull off since the Bill Clinton administration. It was the Bill Clinton administration that made the first real hardcore overtures. They were the neocon think tankers, the people in Bill Clinton administration, the Madeleine Albright. I was blanking on her name at first. The Madeleine Albright. These people was the people like, we got to get India away from China. It was a project that spanned decades, and Trump is just fucking it up because he having a temper tantrum here. He in his tweet, he doesn't even understand the geopolitical importance of what he's saying here. Look, in other words, they sell us a massive amount of goods, their biggest client, but we sell them very little. Until now, a totally one-sided relationship. Hey, Trump dipshit, you want to know why we benefit from this relationship? Any attempt to pull India away from China, any way that we can bring these giant populations away from each other, which has been a coordinated effort by the neoliberals, that is the benefit geopolitically. The reason is that India has charged us until now such high tariffs, the most of any country, that our businesses are unable to sell into India. It has been totally a one-sided disaster. Also, India buys most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the United States. So essentially, this is Donald Trump bitching and complaining because Putin outmaneuvered the United States once again. Donald Trump failed on the global stage once again, and he realized that he's swimming with the sharks now. When we're looking at Xi Jinping, the rising of BRICS, this is even Trump in the United States is in a much worse position than it was even in Trump's first term, especially with the massive diplomatic blow the United States have taken over the last few years with the genocide in Gaza, the massive blunder in Ukraine that shifted many people in the global south like Africa away from them. We explained many times before, yeah, Trump is out of his depth. Yeah, I see you guys. I'm glad you guys are coming to some of the same conclusions here. During the Biden administration, yeah, that reminds me. Another point that I want to make, and which highlights how this happened under multiple administrations. It was Lula during the Biden administration was like, bro, Biden, what the fuck are you doing? Remember, Lula criticized Biden because he's like, bro, you're not even trying to seek peace with Russia. You're about to destabilize the global markets. So I know Lula hasn't been perfect and he hasn't been great on a lot of issues, but Lula has been great on the issue of Ukraine. He was great. He's been great on the issue of Gaza. And this was something that he called Biden out on. This is one of the reasons why Brazil said we're going to directly look at China more. So Trump is completely out of his depth. So the largest economy and the largest population in South America is now starting to gravitate and lean more into this alliance between Brazil, India, and Russia. Do you understand how much Biden, Trump, and the neocons that are in charge, because once again, it's not just one guy, how much they really blundered the United States standing on the global stage? I just want to emphasize that. It's not one guy, but Trump really did fucking accelerate this. Like Biden and Trump particularly. It's been bad for the last few decades, but Biden and Trump in particular really fucked shit up. A lot of people gave Modi a lot of heat because he got closer with the United States under Barack Obama. It's something that neocons, it's something that liberal neocons like hang over the right. They're like, don't you know that India got closer with the United States under Obama, man? Then you guys fucked it up, which is kind of true. Biden and Trump in particular, the current neocon establishment, the Palantir, big tech, BlackRock ran establishment have truly lost the plot. We've seen it in Ukraine. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We've seen how they let all these conflicts spiral, and they don't really have an end game other than cashing out and retiring their bunkers. We are at our end, but we can keep going. Are you guys enjoying the stream? Going a little bit longer than I thought, but I had a lot to comment on regarding this Shanghai summit. This segment here is one of the funniest. This was shot like a week or two ago, but Fahim Zakaria on CNN, he's like one of the foreign policy guys. He's one of those guys that the establishment trusts more than anyone else to discuss the will and the strategies of the empire. So Farhid is an Indian himself, but Farhid is one of the craziest, and I'm not exaggerating here. His worldview, his politics is just as deranged as John Bolton. Like, no one is crazier than Fareed Zakaria because his position is that he's an Indian that believes that the world would be better off under United States domination. And he doesn't hide it in this segment here. He explains how he believes it will be better for the Indian people to embrace neoliberal capitalism, embrace the same West that genocided their people, the same British, the same UK neocon establishment that killed hundreds of millions of Indians. For he's the Zakaria, and you guys think I'm bullshitting. your jaw is going to hit the floor when I show you guys this segment. He does not lie about his intentions and what he view is the best path for India to take. So in this segment, he is in shambles. We see Fareed Zakaria because he sees his vision of United States neocon domination of the Indian people starting to fade. Look at the title. The damage is done. India will no longer trust America. So Fareed Zakaria is one of the good ones. He's one of the good Indians. You know how they got their good Negroes? He's one of the good Indians to describe to his white boomer audience why Indians need U.S. imperialism, why it needs United States dominance. And he is upset because he views Donald Trump as a unique threat who ruined decades of United States effort to pull India away from China. So I believe this segment is very educational, so you guys understand how these psychopaths think. But as a political nerd, I also find it kind of funny. I'm a fucking nerd, guys. So this meltdown by Zakaria is one of the best I've seen in a long time. Let me turn the audio up and we get right to it.
America is often criticized for being short-term in its orientation, quick to change course. In fact, Washington often shows a steely consistency in its foreign policy. Consider the strategic outreach to India that began during the Clinton administration and was expanded on in a bipartisan manner over 25 years until now. Donald Trump's sudden, inexplicable hostility toward India reverses policies pursued under 5 administrations, including his own previous one.
You guys see how he's in complete shambles over this? He's like, God damn it, we were so close. We were so close to tricking my own people to supporting the West. And God, trust me, there's a lot of fucking far gone Indians. Like, Zionism in India is a fucking big thing, bro. And yeah, Fareed seemed mad. Look, that's the perfect time to pause it because I shut up. Let me continue because this video, to me, and I hope you guys are nerds too, it's fucking hilarious. It's a CNN anchor, the guy who's in charge of winning over the Indian diaspora. He's fuming because he viewed Trump as the number one obstacle of this. Let me continue it.
Donald Trump's sudden, inexplicable hostility toward India reverses policies pursued under 5 administrations, including his own previous one. If it holds, this reversal may be the biggest strategic mistake of the Trump presidency so far.
One of the biggest strategic mistakes of the Trump presidency. I have to add one thing, and I mentioned this earlier. Trump did fuck up bad, and he did accelerate this, but do not get it twisted. This deterioration started because of Biden and his unhinged policies in Ukraine. This started because the Biden administration's policies led India to want to pursue a stronger relationship with Russia. So it's not just a Trump thing. This is a failure of neocon policies in the liberal class. The Democrat class, like Fareed Zakaria, they're in pure cult mode because they can't have that analysis. They can't explain to their audience that United States neocon policy failed us. They have to blame it on one guy. Oh, we have a bad manager of the empire. But let's continue.
The biggest strategic mistake of the Trump presidency so far. After the Cold War, the U.S. began a sustained outreach toward India. President Clinton's visit in 2000 was hugely successful and opened up the possibility of a new warm relationship between the two countries. The pivotal shift took place under George W. Bush. His administration realized that a rising China was transforming the international system, and the single most important counterweight to China could be India.
How's that going for you guys? This is what I was just describing, isn't it? The capitalist class a few decades ago, they're like, oh, fuck, we're about to get ate up by China. So they did everything they can to pull India and other giant markets away from China. instead of deciding to cooperate with China and create a system where both the Chinese and the American people would benefit, that would have greatly benefited both societies, the psychopaths in our society decided to pull India and China away from each other and have us as eternal rivals, which is something that Americans shouldn't forgive. But let's continue.
The world's second most populous country, which was also beginning to reform economically and integrate with the world. A close relationship between Washington and New Delhi would be the key to preventing Chinese domination of Asia and securing America's interests in the region. The giant obstacle in the way of better US-India ties was India's nuclear weapons program. Washington had penalized India for this to preserve the global non-proliferation regime. The Bush administration decided that India should be treated like a great power, like France or Britain or China. It offered a historic deal that ended the isolation India had faced because of its nukes. That deal, expertly navigated on the Indian side by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, marked a watershed in the relations between the two countries.
And now everyone learned from the DPRK, the base North Korean government, that the worst thing that you could possibly do is make an agreement with the West where you give up your nukes. Can you imagine how fucked India would be if they agreed to that bullshit? Other countries learned. I hope Iran learned this lesson. The worst thing you can do is give up your nukes and become the next Gaddafi. That's why the West would never forgive the DPRK for like, man, I'm not going to let you treat me like a fucking third world colony. I'm not giving up my nukes. I know you guys hate me. Fuck you. And there are liberals who will never forgive North Korea for making that correct decision. You guys saw how the West tried to punish India as well. And India was like, nah, fuck you. The worst thing that every country did was give up the nukes for the West. It sucks to say, but the West is filled with psychopaths that we need the deterrent. That's the only thing that's stopping these Henry Kissinger trained psychopaths like John Bolton. But let's continue.
After that, things got closer. The Obama administration saw India as key to its pivot to Asia and supported New Delhi's bid to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. He greatly increased trade between the two economies. The first Trump administration took an important leap forward politically. It elevated the Quad, a defense-oriented group of the US, Australia, Japan, and India, and gave it more substance. Trump also embraced and promoted his personal relationship with Prime Minister Modi. President Biden built on the Trump legacy, forging greater cooperation in defense and economics. India began planning to cooperate with the US in the manufacture of everything from fighter jets to computer chips. In the second quarter of this year, India exported more smartphones to the US market than China. India is a prickly country. It was colonized and dominated by the West, ruled by Britain for 2 centuries.
So does this show how crazy Fahid is in his ideology, that he unapologetically wants the West to dominate India despite all the crimes that Britain and the UK committed against the Indian people? Imagine being the kind of traitor that he is. This is why a lot of these Hindu Zionists that I see a lot of people in the chat, you guys are calling them out. A lot of these Hindus are hardcore Zionists, which is literally the most frustrating thing, most mind-breaking thing, because British imperialism murdered hundreds of millions of Indians. Israel and Zionism is the child of British imperialism. So if you're an Indian, you should despise the state of Israel. You should despise Zionism because it's one of the last children of British imperialism. Which is why every single black and brown Zionist, their mind is completely fucked. Because if you oppose British imperialism, if you're a victim of British imperialism, you have no business supporting a state that was developed because of a British mandate. Do you understand history? Of course you don't, because that's the only way you can even be a black or brown Zionist. Any child, anything that blossomed from the British Empire is illegitimate. Look at all the countries who celebrate the revolution from the British Empire. That's legitimate. With 100+ countries to celebrate a British Independence Day that came from the British Empire. If you don't celebrate an Independence Day, you're not legitimate. That's as far as I'm concerned. There's no fucking Israel Independence Day from the UK. It's a UK birth child. That's why they have Ziofascism in the UK. That's why they're arresting nurses and doctors in the UK. That's why they are arresting elderly pro-Palestinian protesters. They're arresting everybody because it's not about fighting anti-Semitism. It's not about protecting the Jews. It's about protecting their imperial project. So many people in the West is lost. The entirety of the Black Congressional Caucus lost. Anyone who enables Zionism is lost. But let's continue with this history lesson. As Fareed Zakaria is having a meltdown over the failure of U.S. policy in India.
In the second quarter of this year, India exported more smartphones to the U.S. market than China. India is a prickly country. It was colonized and dominated by the West, ruled by Britain for 2 centuries. After its independence, it was supported unequivocally by the Soviet Union, while America gave money and arms to its adversarial neighbor, Pakistan. Being a large, diverse, messy democracy, it has domestic interests that it cannot ignore. Despite all this, Washington, through painstaking, patient diplomacy, was able to nudge New Delhi closer and closer so that the 2 countries' interests and actions were aligned. Enter Trump 2.0. With little warning.
You guys see how he had zero criticisms of the crimes that the West committed against the Indian people. Why am I, a Black man from the Midwest, why am I angrier at the crimes that the West, the famines that the West created on the Indian people? Why am I more upset at that than you are? We know the answer to that question. That's a rhetorical question. But you guys see how class loyalty trumps all? Faheed is their millionaire Indian boy. He is their servant. They pay him well, but he's one of the good ones that praises the Western Empire. It's the same with the Black Congressional Caucus. These people are the most deranged. To me, I view them as more deranged than a John Bolton. Because when you see a John Bolton, when you see an Anthony Blinken, these are white boys looking after white boy interests. These are white people doing white imperialism shit. There's nothing that's more disturbing to me and a lot of Black and brown people than people like Fareed Zakaria. That what? Because of material goods? Because of money? What can you buy that's worth this? You can't buy me. There's nothing you can give me that's on this earthly plane that is worth me selling out my family, my people, spitting on the graves of the people who was victim of lynchings, the slave trade, Western imperialism. To me, it's crazy. And I'm sure many of you guys feel the same way. That's why you're leftist. That's why you're anti-imperialist. That's why we're not in his position. But the people who do, the Colin Powells, the Fareed Zakaria, they are the most psychotic people in our society. That's how I view it. To me, they're way crazier than the Lindsey Grahams. They're looking after their own shit. But these people, they're just straight out selling out their people. It's all right. I know I'm belaboring the point, but it's crazy to me, man.
Donald Trump has undone decades of painstaking effort by American diplomats. He has placed India in the highest category of tariff countries, along with Syria and Myanmar, while placing Pakistan at just 19% and offering joint efforts to look for oil in that country. There is little accessible oil there. He met with Pakistan's army chief in private. A Trump family-backed firm has had ties to Pakistan's National Crypto Council, all fueling suspicions of backroom deals. Trump has suddenly turned on India, insulting its economy, calling it dead. In fact, India has had the fastest growing large economy in the world for several years now and is the world's...
And now they are getting closer to China. What a blunder by the United States. You can understand why he's upset, right? Like, I see a lot of people in the chat mocking him. Bro, as an Indian American exceptionalist neocon, this is doomsday for them, bro. The Trump administration, the current path of the United States empire, the rise of BRICS, what they are seeing in Shanghai is the worst fucking thing that ever happened. And we can at least enjoy that, right? Maybe I'm just a nerd and I'm having too much fun with this. I'm greatly enjoying this L that Fahid entire worldview is taking right now.
Economy in the world for several years now and is the world's fourth largest economy and will likely overtake Germany by 2028 to become number 3 after the US and China. It is the world's second largest importer of arms and has the second largest number of smartphone users. India has a long history of seeking to be non-aligned. Under Modi, it embraced a variation called multi-alignment, allowing it to freelance and maintain good ties with all sides. Persistent American diplomacy and the rise of China had been chipping away at that stance, and India had slowly but surely been embracing closer ties with America. No more.
Bro, look at it. He's so mad. He's not wrong, bro. He's not wrong. This is a giant L by the United States. And now you guys see why there's a lot of cope in the Western media. They just try to blame Trump. Oh my God. They're panicking over this no limits partnership. They're trying to downplay. This is pure panic mode. If you're an Indian neocon Zionist like this guy is, this is the worst possible scenario. But this scenario is great because they are nostalgic about this era. Remember, I just told you guys that liberals bragged about the Obama era where the Indian neocons loved Obama. We got this neocon shit going on. The Hindu Zionists are happy. The Democrat Zionists are happy. The Obama era was the good days. And now the United States empire had completely fumbled their relationship with India. And I think everyone should be celebrating. Everyone should be celebrating the L's that the neocon class is taking.
Ties with America. No more. Even if Trump reverses course once again, the damage is done. Indians believe that America has shown its true colors, its unreliability, its willingness to be brutal to those it calls its friends. They will understandably feel that they need to hedge their bets, stay close to Russia, and even make amends with China. The country is united in its shock and anger at Trump's insulting behavior. When I'm in India, I often urge the country to forge closer ties with America.
Of course you do. Of course you fucking do. You guys see his garbage worldview? This is why he's given a seat. It's disgusting what these CEOs and these white board members do. They pick them the biggest fucking sellout. There's like 1 billion or so Indians, and they find the biggest sellout like Fareed Zakaria. He says he goes to India and he implores them to have a relationship with a country that doesn't provide their people health care. I'm gonna play that part again. You guys see the deranged worldview that he has that has nothing to do with the standing of his own people. I find it fascinating. Do you guys find it? Is it me? I find it fascinating how these people think.
Stay close to Russia and even make amends with China. The country is united in its shock and anger at Trump's insulting behavior. When I'm in India, I often urge the country to forge closer ties with America, telling Indians that they should shed their ambivalence, that their destiny lies in a great partnership between the world's oldest and its largest democracy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Today, I would be hard-pressed to urge Indians to follow that advice.
Dude, it's actually better than I remember it. I watched this before, but it's actually funnier than I remember. I have to hear that again. I implore American Indians to support the United States, but I can't, under the Trump administration, make the same recommendation. The pure cope. Do you guys see why this is a great day today? Do you guys see why anti-imperialists, people who support multipolarity, said that Donald Trump was the accelerist candidate? The motherfucker was right. Our friend at DDG, that was right. All the people that were saying Trump was the candidate for the rise of multipolarity. Let's hear it again, because I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. I can see a few of the chats. Zoya's like, this is fucking hilarious, isn't it? I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Let's hear that last part again. I swear to God, I'll move on.
Democracy. Today, I would be hard-pressed to
let me go back a little bit further.
to ties with America, telling Indians that they should shed their ambivalence, that their destiny lies in a great partnership between the world's oldest and its largest democracy. Today, I would be hard-pressed to urge Indians to follow that advice.
No, I got to end it with a face. Bro, that shit is so fucking hilarious.
Indians to follow that advice.
The Trump administration has been straight up doomsday for these people. But there's a lot of cope that these neoliberals have, because Biden played a big part of this too, man. Like, was supporting the war in Ukraine, like, Fareed Zakaria, I don't know if you guys remember a few segments we did with him. He's one of the most diehard supporters of Zelensky. He's one of the most diehard supporters of the war in Ukraine. Was that worth it, Fareed? I would love to talk to him and ask him this question. Like, what is your Putin derangement syndrome? Was it worth throwing away your vision of liberalism dominating India? Womp, womp, womp. That's what that face says in a nutshell. Womp, womp. Your worldview is falling apart. We are witnessing the rise of BRICS. Donald Trump was the accelerist candidate the entire time. This is a great day. It's a great day. This is why anti-imperialists are celebrating. This is from Sputnik India, who has a great thread. I already had this up. Modi's trip to China is a game changer. This, for people who want to see the fall of United States hegemony, this picture is life. But this is the worst thing that ever happened to Fareed Zakaria, which is why he's in shambles. The neoliberal class is in shambles. And whenever they're in shambles, shouldn't we celebrate? And I really hope that this relationship, and I think everyone should be hoping that BRICS is successful, that they stay strong and united together, because they have the United States on the ropes. Trump is panicking. So just like Fareed Zakaria, just like all these Hindu Zionists, the Christian Zionists, they are in shambles as well. Trump issues fresh warning to India after Modi G Putin meeting. What does this article say? Let me actually curious. They're pretty much repeating Trump's tweet he says earlier. Yeah, so this is what this article pretty much summing up Trump's meltdown about how India buys oil and military products from Russia. Let's move on. We're about 90 minutes in. God damn. We really about to do another 2-hour Monday stream, aren't we? All right, you guys know I can talk about this shit all night, but I guess I do gotta begin to wrap up. Here's some New York Times cope. I almost just want to find some articles and show it to you guys because, bro, the headlines, the cope, the reaction from the neoliberals have been glorious to me because they've been trying their best to explain what the fuck is going on. They try to explain to their audience how much they screwed up. The U.S. empire screwed up without trying to give away the game too much. Look at this New York Times headline. Smiled and clasped hands as Xi, Putin, and Modi try. Look at that cope. They try to signal unity. I guess it's fair to say that it takes work. Modi is hard to trust. So I guess it does take some work, but you guys see how they try to convince themselves that, come on, man, they're not that big of a deal. They're just trying some new shit out. Their display of friendship in China was aimed at projecting an alternative to U.S. global leadership, even as serious differences among them remain. They really do need that code, don't they? To be clear, there are differences between India and China, but the reason why this is bad for you is because they are working out those differences as a spite to you. So they had border disputes that they are now coming to agreements on, decades-long disagreements they are now patching up, which is a bad sign for you, New York Times. But you guys see how they need to make it sound at least a little bit positive for the United States. Yeah, so I don't have to read all this. I'm gonna play one. I'll play this last clip. You guys know I could talk about this all night, but I'll play this last clip. We do one more propaganda report. So this is gonna be damn near a 2-hour stream by the time we're done. Another 2-hour stream on Monday. Hopefully you guys like and share. Hopefully you guys enjoy the stream. I'm not doing it for no reason. Let's see how many likes we got on here. Let's get some more likes. I'm gonna read some super chats and now play this last video. We wrap up here. On Monday we got Sarah from DDG. So man, I probably should save some of it for Sarah. Nah, bro. By the time we get to Wednesday, there's gonna be so many things that happen. There's gonna be a lot to talk about with Sarah. So fuck it. I'm gonna play this last clip because I want to show you guys some more Western reactions in Western cope. Here's a retitled. Here's some military fuck. It's CNN's report. So this will be the last thing we watch. I just want to show you guys Western cope on this new alliance. Let's finish with this.
We've got breaking news this morning. A major security summit in China is putting President Xi Jinping in the spotlight with more than 20 other world leaders. And it's also giving Vladimir Putin a chance to get closer with India's Prime Minister Modi as the two leaders shared a warm greeting with Xi. And you can also see Modi holding Putin's hand. Hopefully we can show some video of that, of Modi and Putin actually walking together, holding hands. CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson explains how the Chinese leader is using this meeting to outline his vision for a reshaped global order, with Beijing leading the way.
Pamela, I think the enduring image of this regional summit will be the leaders of three of the world's largest countries, that's Russia, China, and India, cordially rubbing shoulders, looking very happy together, and complaining that the world has gotten more uncertain and chaotic than ever. This has been a forum for Russia and China, two close partners, to complain about the U.S. dominating international relations too much in their eyes since the end of the Cold War, and calling for the creation of a new, as they would put it, more fair system of governance. Listen to what Russian.
How is any of that unreasonable? Oh no, China, Russia, India is calling for world peace. Oh no. And maybe if the United States didn't completely destabilize entire regions like the Middle East, maybe if they didn't sponsor genocide and proxy wars and overthrow governments, the United States and the West sanctions one fourth of the world's population. Actually, I think it's more than that. U.S. sanctions. I think it's 1/3. I'm fact checking myself. Yep, it's more than that. Look at this. Look at this shit. The United States has sanctions on 1/3 of all countries. 60% of the poor nations, according to whatever metric they're using here, has United States sanctions on them. Who wouldn't want a new world order under this insanity? Sanctions is an act of war. Decolonize your mind. We've been waging economic war, a global class war on the global working class. So, of course, the majority of the world population want to see a new economic world order, and that's not spooky, it's not mysterious, it's not even anti-American. It makes sense. It's crazy that they haven't done this until now. Well, I guess it's not, because it takes a lot to undo the shackles of Western capitalism. They did a number on Russia. This is what the Bernie Sanders anti-Putin left, they refused to acknowledge, man. The West fucked up Russia after the Soviet Union fell. And Putin took a dying, pathetic state. The economy was literally nothing. Their state was nothing. And he turned it into a global superpower that hosting summit, that's a big part of summits, a giant friendship with the new rising empire known as China, challenging the United States and defeating NATO on a proxy war. I don't give a fuck about your Western feelings. You guys realize Putin is going down in history, fam. This man is a goddamn legend. Individually destroying the Western hegemony. You had so many of these fucking sellout Russians in the post-Soviet era. And Putin took this pathetic Russian state, and now we have this amazing unity. The same with China, where the Chinese, where the communists uplifted and transformed our country to a poverty-ridden nation, to a global superpower, and the West will never forgive them for it. The West will never forgive Xi Jinping and Putin for their massive success on the global stage. Bernie Sanders will call them a tyrant. Dr. Cornel West and the entirety of the intelligence, the academic, professional managerial class, they hate Putin. Remember, they was on the side of Alexei Navalny. That's what started the fallout between me and Dr. Cornel West in the first place. Because the institutionalized left hate Putin for pulling off what they failed to do in their own country. Provide healthcare to their own people, and improve the material conditions of their own people, and turn Russia to a legitimate superpower that is holding the West in check. For everyone who's confused on why anti-imperialists tend to side with Putin and BRICS, it's because of the geopolitical reality of what he is accomplishing for the global working class by paving a way for an alternative system of the United States. And that's why liberals hate him. That's why Western chauvinists hate him. And Putin, he will admit himself that he was a fool for a very long time in his early career, where he wanted this friendly relationship with the West. He explained how Russia became boogie, how they embraced capitalism in order to win over the West. And he came to this revelation over the last 10 years or so that was bullshit. He realized that was a mistake by him and other Russian leaders, which is why he realized, like, man, we need to start preparing for Western sanctions against us. We need to start becoming closer to China. We need to really get behind this new rising BRICS, which he and Lula played a very big part of starting. So essentially what I'm saying is all these leftists you see, the DSA people who have Putin derangement syndrome, they lost the plot and they have no idea what they're talking about. Like, if you ever see these leftists like, oh, as leftists, we gotta hate Putin. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. It's a childish view of geopolitics in the world stage in the fight against imperialism. I'm not saying you guys don't have to go as far as I do. I'm not saying you have to like Putin, but you have to acknowledge what he has done for the Russian people is spectacular. This organization, this union that he played a part of, because Jesus deserves a big part of the credit too, is spectacular. So who are we as Americans who live in a failing government, a police state, to then look at the 85% of the Russians who look at Putin and they have the same analysis as I do? I'm not American speaking over them. You guys are Americans speaking over them, because the Russian people, they keep electing Putin at an 85% clip. You have Western-backed think tanks that do, like, they try to fact check Putin popularity, and even their own polls show that Putin has around a 75%, 80% approval rating. So despite what the West and Bernie Sanders, he copes, and the NATO left, they cope, like Matt Dussey said it with Hassan Piker. oh man, you know, their elections are rigged. The polls are fake. The polls are fake. They're not popular. It's all fake. That's the American exceptionalism. That's the people, their mind can't even comprehend. A leader that the people actually enjoy. A leader that actually represents the people. So since they can't wrap their minds around that, as an American, as a Westerner, which makes sense, they assume other popular leaders are the result of manipulation, authoritarianism, and that's imperialist thinking. That's Western chauvinist thinking. So you guys will never, ever see me prop up a leader that is hated by their people. Like, it's not like I'm propping up Putin and he has a 30% approval rating like our Congress. You gotta know our Congress, they float around a 20 to 30% approval rating. There was a point where they hit a low of 13%. So because Americans are used to being under failures as leaders, they then project the corruption of their state onto every other country. And they can't even imagine, they can't even begin to imagine a country where someone actually supports their leader. You guys understand that's where all the Putin and Russian derangement syndrome come from. That's the DSA anti-China derangement syndrome, the anti-Russian derangement syndrome. As a socialist, we support the agency of the working class in other countries. If we're American and we're trying to undercut the will of the working class that's supporting the government that's fighting against U.S. imperialists, that's an imperialist action in itself. I really hope you guys understand that concept, and that's mostly the difference between me, someone who leans more as a tanky, and the Trotskyists and the anarchists. Because the Trotskyists and the anarchists, they feel the need to overwrite the will of the global working class. Where they say, oh, I know more than the Russian working class. I know more than the Chinese working class, and I hereby declare the Chinese government as evil. So I am going to work against the Chinese masses and the Chinese working class to uphold this purity fetish that I have, this vision of socialism that I alone have. And I will tank global solidarity in the pursuit. And if you're a Trotskyist, and I got friends who are, you must understand that this is our critique of you guys. This global working class rising against global capitalism, that's almost a delusional way of looking at it. But these are I've never canceled these people. I'm just laying out. This is where our disagreements as tankies come from, the Trotskyist anarchist point of view. You guys tend to have more of an imperialist, Americanized version of how we should view countries, where you erase the will of the Chinese people who support their communist party, the Russian working class who support Russia. Well, we believe we should be working in solidarity with these working class who chose out of agency their own version of working class liberation. Anyway, I'll shut up. You guys know I like to lecture about theory. I almost get too much into the weeds. But I just want to explain some of the tension and some of the disagreements and why I align more with the tankies instead of the Trotskyists. Because the Trotskyists, they tend to be like, I hate Putin, I hate every government, bro. I hate all the governments, bro. Even the governments where the working class, they had their successful revolutions. Fuck the revolutions, man. Fuck the revolution that the Chinese people have, man. Sorry, they just sound like hippies to me. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did that. To be honest, that's just kind of how they sound to me. I almost got. I almost then I forgot what this clip. Let's watch a little bit more of this clip, and then we end it. This is gonna be a 2-hour stream anyway, so fuck it. Let's wrap it up.
Dominating international relations too much in their eyes since the end of the Cold War, and calling for the creation of a new, as they would put it, more fair system of governance. Listen to what Russian Vladimir Putin had to say.
A system that would replace the outdated Eurocentric and Euro-Atlantic models, taking into account the interests of the broadest possible range of countries, truly balanced, and therefore preventing attempts by some states to secure their own safety at the expense of others.
Of course, it is the Russian military that has been bombing Ukrainian cities night after night. Vladimir Putin describing that as a crisis, not a war, and blaming the West for starting that terrible conflict.
You guys notice how they don't even try to disprove that point? They do this all the time. They're like, well, according to Putin, the West meddled in Ukraine, and that started the conflict. Just because you said it in a sarcastic tone, it doesn't disprove what the claim is. So let's continue. I need to shut up. I just want to show a little bit. I want to show you guys where the military guy come on, and then we wrap up.
Starting that terrible conflict. Most notable, I think, at this summit was the presence of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who skipped last year's summit amid a real downturn in relations with his Chinese neighbor. It was about 5 years ago that Indian and Chinese soldiers were beating each other to death in a disputed border region in the Himalayas. He was here in China for the first time in 7 years, clearly trying to mend fences with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and also stinging from the fact that the Trump administration imposed 50% tariffs on India. That's seen by many in India as the U.S. Are making a sharp U-turn from growing relations between Washington and New Delhi over the course of nearly 25 years. So a lot of geopolitics at work here, and we're going to see the symbolism shift from diplomacy to Beijing in just 2 days' time, when China is expected to put on a major military parade, and some of the guests of honor are—
Oh no, a military parade! Bro, these people crack me up. So, according to these people, it's okay if you bomb a hospital. Like, you can invade countries, you can put sanctions on countries, but God forbid you hold a military parade. Then you're an evil, authoritarian country. Isn't that weird? That's where liberals draw the line. You can literally illegally occupy a country like Syria. You can destabilize countries like Libya, and they love Barack Obama. They love their imperialist neocon queen Hillary Clinton. But God forbid they hold a military parade, and then you go too fucking far. Like, you guys realize that's the only thing they have on China. They're like, man, don't you know that China is an evil, militaristic society? Don't you know that they hold military drills? They do military drills in the South China Sea with the military. Don't you know that they increased the military spending? Oh. You know what the funny thing is? It's funny to us, but this shit works on boomers, bro. This shit works on these white people. These white people are afraid of China. The polls show the American people think China is the new enemy. They're afraid of China because China hosting military parades. The West is literally fucking. The West is funding a genocide, but CNN is like, oh my god, you know, GDP military parades. When you decolonize your mind, this shit becomes comedy to me. It's absurd. But we wrap up here soon. Let's
are expected to be the Russian president as well as the leaders
of Iran. Military parade. That's the biggest criticism
to Beijing in just 2 days' time, when China is expected to put on a major military parade, and some of the guests of honor are expected to be the Russian president as well as the leaders of Iran and North Korea. Back to you, Pam.
All right, Ivan Watson, thank you so much for bringing us the latest there. And let's continue the conversation. With us now, CNN military analyst and retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Layton. Hi.
I just want to hear what you guys know that this motherfucker is about to say the craziest shit you ever heard in your life. Retired military propagandist on CNN. We will end it after we hear his pain. This is funny.
Good to see you. So how is President Xi's message about a new world order being received by the likes of Putin and Modi?
Well, this is going to be very interesting, Pamela. And one of the key things here is that Xi is really trying to present himself as this stabilizing force in the world, as opposed to the chaotic world, as Ivan was mentioning in his report.
How dare he? Is that what you're upset about, Xi Jinping? He's trying to present himself as a stabilizing force. Oh no, maybe because he's the one not committing a genocide? He's not the one who destabilized the Middle East. He's not the one who put sanctions on 60% of the poor countries in the world. But You gotta see what white boy, Mr. White Boy says. I don't know his fucking name. We're gonna have some fucking random white imperialist motherfucker explain to you what Xi Jinping is thinking. This is the kind of shit that work on boomers. This is the kind of shit that destroy the minds of the average liberal. Oh my God, how dare China reach out to their neighbors? Isn't that evil? God, one more time.
Force in the world, as opposed to the chaotic world, as Ivan was mentioning in his report, that they seem to be confronted with under President Trump. So what you're seeing in this particular case is that leaders of, Russia is very dependent on China. India has become dependent on Russia for oil, for cheap oil. That's why they got those 50% tariffs. And it's really a confluence of different interests that are bringing these leaders together. They think that they can do better in this grouping, at least for the moment. They think they can do better in this grouping that is led by China. And they think that if they change the world order to something that appears to be more favorable to them, they are going to accrue some advantages that they otherwise wouldn't accrue under a US-dominated world order. Now, in point of fact, that's going to be something that's going to be much harder for the US to deal with. It will potentially result in trade imbalances that are even greater than the ones we have now. And it could also really make it difficult for us to exert influence over areas of the world we've traditionally had some sway in.
Yeah, and
I ended there. I just want to get your thoughts on that. But you guys see the cope coming from these people. They claim that they are pursuing the Western world, a global world order that is more fair. They refuse to accept what the global majority acknowledges as a fact, that the rules-based order serves genocide, it serves imperialism, and left the global working class worst off. So this is pure quote by CNN. I want a hard wrap here. I'm gonna have Sarah from DDG back on. As much as I love talking about this story, there's gonna be a lot more developments over the next few days. So I will have Sarah from DDG on Wednesday. Friday gonna be a banger show. I think I got Haas from the ACP coming on Friday. Haas Al-Din. Yeah, I think he's coming on. No, that's next Friday. That's next Friday. So next Friday, Haas coming on. Sarah coming on Wednesday. I'm working on a few other roundtables and panels. I've been having a lot of fun with those. So we got a lot of great guests coming up. I'm a hard wrap here. We're about 2 hours in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the analysis. Let me read a few super chats here. Yeah, he's the Indian Marco Rubio. Bro, the Indian Hindu ruling class is full of these Zakaria type characters. These people who are advocates of India pursuing neoliberal capitalism, and they have an intense burning hatred of China that they can't even describe. Like, they hate China despite all the crimes that the West committed against them. It's the same criticism I have of the Black Congressional Caucus. They're beyond cut. It's beyond frustrating. How did we get to a point where the average middle schooler knows more about Russia than Trump? Yeah, more than Trump, more like we covered this over the last few years, man. Like, watching the Ukraine war coverage from the Western media was so nauseating because they were saying stuff that was clearly not true. They were saying that this war was a miscalculation by Putin that's going to isolate him on the global stage. Do you guys remember? You guys remember all the neocons that was on CNN? They were saying that the Biden administration, they was right by making Russia a pariah on the global stage. And by doing so, they will peel China away from India. That's the analysis that liberals had for the first year or so of the Ukraine war. And now they said, oh my God, I can't believe India is now leaning more toward China than Russia. Will there ever be an acknowledgement that Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Jake Tapper, Zahid Fakaria, he also was making these arguments that you guys was wrong? Will you guys ever admit that? I guess not. I see another super chat came in. Let me make sure I don't miss any. Oh, Jesus. The U.S. is committing a whole ass genocide at the same time retreating from Russia. Yeah, horrible optics. I think I almost called. I saw one came in. Imagine if China put weather balloons in the parade. That's funny as hell. Oh, bro, imagine they had a military parade with air balloons. They would have a complete utter meltdown. Like, what is China planning with their sophisticated spy balloon technology? You guys have no idea how much America has cooked. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back with Sarah on Wednesday. I had a 2-hour banger stream for you guys. It's not easy ranting for 2 hours, guys. It's not easy preparing a 2-hour show. So hopefully you guys show me some love. You guys see how the YouTube algorithm is fucking with me. So I hope you guys show me some love via like, subscribe, shares, support on Patreon, even if it's just a few bucks, $2 or $3. It really helped pay for the labor of the stream. It's more important to support me on Patreon and via PayPal and that stuff than it is on YouTube, because do you want YouTube taking all the cut of everything you pay us? So support us, help support my labor. This is a lot of work, guys, especially doing this show all by myself. So hopefully you guys support me. Hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Thank you guys for watching. It is an honor. It's a privilege. Like, I don't really give a fuck about the algorithm. It's an honor and privilege to have thousands of people watch a live stream of me sharing my logic and ideology. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Have a good night.